in April at the Council on Foreign Relations said that the Russians had ramped it up in 2018 and that that's only a dress rehearsal for what we expect in 2020. There is bipartisan legislation that is dead on the Hill because Mitch McConnell in the Senate will not let it get a vote. And I wanted to, since you were too modest to mention it, have a little Thursday flashback as to what happened in Helsinki, because I think it was you asking that question. Let's watch.
Just now, President Putin denied having anything to do with the election interference in 2016. Every U.S. intelligence agency has concluded that Russia did. My first question for you, sir, is who do you believe?
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
Now, Jonathan, it has to start at the top if there's ever going to be an attempt to stop Russia. They did do one thing, and that was in 2018. On election day and in the days while the votes were being counted, they took down the Internet Research Agency's internet. They basically did the first that we know of offensive cyber attack from U.S. Cyber Command.
Right. The efforts have been minimal, to be sure. And the president's remarks there from last summer remain striking and sort of one for a president who's able to shake off bad headlines, who's able to dodge things that would have ended the political career of so many of his predecessors. There are a few things that will stay with him. Charlottesville, to be sure, and child separation at the border, and I'd argue Helsinki and his response there and his unwillingness to side with the U.S. intelligence agencies over Vladimir Putin. And let's also remember, just yesterday, Robert Mueller, in his first remarks in 2 years, he really underscored this idea that Russia posed then and still poses a dangerous threat to our democracy, to our elections. He both opened and closed his remarks yesterday at the Department of Justice, warning Americans that Russia could do this again and urging the government to do more to protect the very fabric of our democracy.
Jonathan Lemire and Peter Alexander at the White House, thank you both so much. And this morning, the president also denied that he had anything to do with suggestions that the Navy hide the name of the USS John McCain, berthed for repair near the USS Wasp on a base in Japan when the president was visiting on Memorial Day. The ship was in fact named for 3 generations of John McCains, his father and grandfather, both admirals, and of course the late senator as well.
John McCain, I wasn't a fan, but I would never do a thing like that. Now, somebody did it because they thought I didn't like them, okay? And they were well-meaning, I will say. I didn't know anything about it. I would never have done that.
Well, on The View this morning, McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, said that the president may not have ordered the tarp to be placed over the name, but she holds him ultimately responsible.
The president's actions have consequences, and when you repeatedly are attacking my father and war heroes, it creates a culture in the military where people are clearly fearful to show, my father's name in one way or another, and that, I think, is what has started this chain of events.
Joining me now is Senator Jack Reed, who serves on the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees and, of course, was a close friend and colleague of the late senators. Your reaction to all of this?
Well, I think it's disgraceful to try to cover up the name of not just Senator John McCain, but his father and grandfather. All 3 were extraordinary naval heroes, historic figures, in fact, in the country, in this country. And then for the president to say, well, I didn't know anything about it, but it's well-meaning, adds insult to injury. It wasn't well-meaning. It was, I think, perhaps the attempt of staff to prevent the president from having a tantrum if he saw the name. And that shows not just the president's relationship to Senator McCain, but his combustible personality, which is in very much contrast with what is necessary to be president of the United States.
Do you have any, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, do you have any questions about the Navy? Apparently, they actually, according to the Wall Street Journal, and it's been reporting as well in the Washington Post, the sailors who wear the caps with the USS McCain were given the day off, port leave, so that they were not visible while the president was there on Memorial Day. That's
well, we were, We are looking into making staff contacts now to determine what exactly happened, and if it was a decision, who made the decision, and why was it made? Was it a result of a call from someone in the White House, perhaps not the president, but someone in the White House? Again, this is not the way to conduct an operation, or not the way to conduct a visit by a president to a military facility.
Acting Secretary, I should say, Shanahan, is traveling overseas, but this is a brief press encounter, what he had to say, audio only.
I never authorized or never approved any action around the movement or activity regarding that ship. And furthermore, I would never dishonor the memory of a great American patriot like Senator McCain.
Senator, is it your staff, is it Armed Services Committee staff that is looking into what the 7th Fleet may or may not have done in the chain of command, coming from what clearly was White House aides, advanced staff, and we don't know how high it went. But are you all looking into it? Is it bipartisan? If you could give me the context.
We initially heard today, as most people did, of the incident, so I've asked my staff on the Armed Services Committee to make calls. But this is an issue that will come up again. At some point, Secretary Shanahan will be up for nomination. I'm sure the issue will be raised. Again, hopefully, and I'm confident that it will be raised based upon a factual record. We're trying to establish those facts now.
I wanted to share with you and with our viewers also a tweet from Pete Buttigieg, only one of the 2020 candidates, of course, who wrote that this is not a show. Our military is not a prop. Ships and sailors are not to be toyed with for the benefit of a fragile president's ego. This is from, of course, a war veteran, Pete Buttigieg.
I think those sentiments are exactly on target. What we have to do to the men and women of our armed services is not use them, but thank them for their service. I was just in Iraq and Afghanistan about 4 weeks ago, and one of the opportunities I took, appropriately so, was to thank men and women from all of our services for what they've done and what they continue to do. And the temptation to use them as props is something that should be avoided at all costs.
Now, based on what you heard also from Robert Mueller yesterday, he started and closed his 9.5 minutes or so of remarks with warnings about Russia. At this stage, do you think that there's enough evidence to, at least for the House, to open up inquiries or impeachment inquiries?
I think the House has to continue their investigations. There's so much other material that would be essential. That they've requested the tax records of the president. They've requested other information. I think they're pursuing this in a very methodical and thorough way. And with that evidence, they make a much better judgment as where to proceed. But I think we're still in the stage of gathering evidence. And as you well know, Andrea, the White House is doing everything it can to frustrate it, going to court, appealing court decisions. So you don't do that unless you're concerned about what they might find. But I think we do have to have a more significant and more expansive factual record.
And finally, I know that Senator Langford